Tempest's Labyrinth is not just a dungeon. It is a place where a loss can become training data instead of a funeral. Carillon brings brute force, Frey brings impossible air control, and even Adelman's team and Kumara get pulled into the lesson. By the end, I have a new respect for both former demon lords, and a fresh reminder that Ramiris may be the most useful troublemaker in the room. AI Anime and Manga presents. If this part works for you, like, comment, and subscribe so more slime fans find the story. YouTube members get upcoming episodes early and help cover the AI narration, subtitles, thumbnails, and rendering that keep the channel moving. Now let's return to Tempest, where Carillon and Frey turn safe labyrinth battles into the kind of lessons nobody forgets. For the time being, we'd let them get used to things down in the labyrinth. I gave Benimaru a quick rundown about Sar and Grigori, so they'd be sent to their respective training sites when the timing was right.
So I'll be taking care of someone again?
If you could, please. Throwing them right at Hakuro might just lead to confusion.
Yes, true.
Benimaru said with a chuckle.
But we went through the same experience, remember? You sure you're not being overprotective?
He had a point, but this pair were guests of Tempest. If they were moving in for good, that'd be another thing, but I didn't want them to get too reckless. And speaking of training, so how are Carillon and Frey doing?
Heh, it's pretty interesting actually.
The moment Benimaru said that, Ciel put up some data for me.
Name, Carillon, EP 2773,537. Race, Beast God, high-level Chaos Elemental Light Soul Beast.
Damn, my labyrinth was scary. Ciel was giving me these EP figures, basically people's personal information in a flash. When Carillon and Frey evolved, they achieved some level of divinity. Frey's EP was just under 2 million, but I guess she still passed the test for demigodhood anyway. It must not be a strict cutoff. Their skills and tolerances weren't divulged to me, but awakening and becoming a true demon lord granted them all the strength you'd expect. Awakening boosted my magicule count a good 10 times over, but Carillon and Frey didn't seem to power up quite that much. It must vary from person to person. In my personal estimation, pre-evolution Carillon had an EP of around 700,000, with Frey's maybe a bit under 400,000. Assuming that wasn't wholly off the mark, Carillon's strength went up 4 times and Frey's nearly 5 times. But then, maybe my stats were relatively low when I went through with it. When I thought about it, that was pretty obvious. I really need to think in terms of how much improvement was shown, not how many times stronger they became. It seems clear, though, that the more EP you have, the more intense the power you receive upon awakening. Now it was time to use this data to perform a little battle analysis. Carillon's bodily abilities nearly tripled when he transformed, but convert that into EP, and I don't think it was even a doubling. No, I think that's just a temporary ability boost. That transformation didn't give him omnipotent powers, safe to say. It just meant he'd get weaker again once time expired. That also applied to Gabriel and his crew, not just Carillon. If not for that time limit, they'd just spend all day transformed after all. Still, transformation does have its advantages. It heals your wounds, refills your stamina, and does a bunch of other stuff. It was one of the merits of being a lycanthrope, and I wasn't about to downplay it. All about how you use it, really. So how well was the transformed Carillon using his newfound powers? How are they looking to you? I asked Benimaru.
Well, Sir Carillon took me on first. Revenge, as he called it.
Huh?
Do you remember when we sent an observation team over to Eurazania? He failed to land anything on me back then. So I tested out the awakened Sir Carillon to see how much I had grown.
I think some wires got crossed. I wanted to test out Carillon and Frey's powers with everything I had, not Benimaru's. What would that achieve? On second thought, maybe that's no biggie? Benimaru fighting for keeps against Carillon, bringing out everything he's got. In the labyrinth where nobody has to die, I couldn't imagine a more entertaining card, actually. Ramiris and her team recorded everything for me, so I'll sit back and relax with the video later. For now, let's just hear the results. And who won?
Me by a nose.
Oh, that's great! I praised Benimaru, but internally I was unsure how to react. I realized that something in me was so assured of his victory that hearing how close it was unnerved me. But by a nose, huh? How did it go? Before Benimaru could address my curiosity, an image flashed across my mind.
It appears Carillon unleashed one of his hidden techniques as his first move.
Nice one, Ciel. It immediately gave me the info I sought. And as Ciel said, the video revealed that Carillon was the first to move. Weapon in hand, he sank down in a flowing motion, and the next moment his entire body began to glow. Then he quite literally turned into a storm of particles all streaming Benimaru's way. Carillon has named it Burst Roar. It transforms his body into a sentient stream of particles that plunge into their target. Call it an ever-changing, scattering, converging particle ray. Sentient, huh? With Carillon awakened, he'd acquired all the unique traits of a spiritual life form. I could see how the light doubled back and consumed Benimaru after he dodged it the first time.
The moment the fight began, I felt a shiver down my spine, or I could just tell something bad was coming my way.
Benimaru explained.
I knew I couldn't just stand there, so I triggered some shimmering haze.
This shimmering haze was something at the deepest level of his form height skill set. It kept any kind of attack from tracking down his body. Unless an ultimate skill was involved in the attack, it'd never work against him. If he didn't use that, however, Benimaru would have lost in the first shot. Carillon was working at a speed several hundred times the speed of sound, in a similar vein to Velgrin's own ultra-speed attacks. I'm amazed Benimaru dodged it, but if the light could home right back in on him, there was nothing he could do. It took his ultimate skill, Amaterasu, Lord of Shimmering Flame, to hold out against it. So your sixth sense and your ultimate skill made all the difference.
Yes, it was quite dangerous. My pride convinced me that victory would come far easier. It's proven to be a good, if painful, lesson.
Yeah, I had no doubt you'd win, so I'm not sure how to take this either. Pride and carelessness are two shortcuts to defeat, you know? And they're also difficult to keep watch over. Good thing you picked up on this before the real fight.
I know. Even if I'm aware of it, my subconscious still lets me grow conceited. That's why they call it being careless, but it's truly a scary thing.
You said it. Carillon gave us both a good reminder of the dangers of underestimating matters. I had to thank him for that. After that little post-mortem, I sipped the cup of cafe au lait prepared by Shuna as we continued talking. Did you fight against Frey then?
No, after watching the two of us fight, Frey decided that she didn't have a chance against me. You know how she hates wasting time and effort, of course.
Ah, yes, she did seem that way. I nodded. Benimaru was right. And Frey was never the belligerent type, so I could understand that reaction. She was much more methodical, something that Milim complained to me endlessly about. It was beyond infuriating to Milim, in fact, but it was none of my business, so I just nodded and said yeah a few times.
So after that, we talked about the two of them marching into the Labyrinth to see how far their skills could take them.
Yeah, that'd be the quickest and easiest way to test her strength, maybe?
Yes. They both went in solo, beginning on floor 51.
The video played in my brain as Benimaru commentated. Ciel's always on point like that. First, Carillon. He gave Benimaru a good run for his money, and he proved why as he steadily advanced. Ghidorah was absent from floor 60, so he got a free pass through there. But chances are Carillon would have wiped the floor with him. That's how much of a head of steam he had going. It turns out he had tested his strength against Adelman and his army too back when they returned to do some fine-tuning on the transport magic circle. It was 3 against 1 and Carillon still took them down easily. It's hardly a wonder why he wasn't shy about using Burst Roar back then either, and Adelman had no time to devise any countermeasures. Venti was their tank, with Alberto providing hit-and-run raid attacks and Adelman serving as main attacker. But that combo fell apart the moment Venti got toasted first. Carillon then went straight for Adelman, ignoring Alberto entirely. Like a mighty lion on the hunt, mane flowing in the air.
Actually, it's the female lions that do most of the hunting for.
I know that. Ciel's commentary is incredibly useful, but sometimes I feel like it's making fun of me. And it's not the first time. It's been going on since back in the Great Sage days, hasn't it?
I will be more careful.
If you could, please. I nodded, my feelings hurt. But anyway, Carillon's burst roar had an insane amount of force. Adelman's main attribute is light, but so is Carillon's. There was no advantage or disadvantage there, so it just came down to a strength contest. The thing that piqued my interest was the fact that Adelman possessed an ultimate gift. I don't think Carillon had an ultimate skill or any god-class gear either. So how did he beat him? Because I think Ciel smugly stated to me that only an ultimate could beat another ultimate.
That is not in my memory.
Oh, it's not? I feel like I'm being gaslit here, but I'm not too confident I'm right either.
Carillon now has the properties of a spiritual life form. That, combined with the force of his will, has likely given him strength equivalent to an ultimate.
I see. That thinking makes sense. So Carillon simply possesses enough attack force to overcome a multilayer barrier reinforced by Adelman's Necronomicon.
Sir Carillon's next opponent was Kumara. She sent a request to fight him ahead of anyone else remaining, and we accepted it.
Oh? Yeah, Zegion's stronger than her nowadays. Maybe I need to rethink the Labyrinth's boss floors sometime soon.
Yeah, but it actually resulted in a pretty good fight.
More video popped into my brain. Kumara went all out from the start, declining to summon any of her tail beasts. She had heard about Adelman's defeat, but apparently she didn't ask how the battle proceeded. Knowing your enemy's preferred moves can make a world of difference in battle, but she made a deliberate decision to challenge him fair and square. Carillon had the EP advantage, but Kumara had the ultimate skill Bahamut, Lord of Fantastic Beasts. Here too, he broke out Burst Roar first thing, but this time the light formed into several flashing rays, extending out at Kumara from all directions. In response, Kumara leaped into the air and invoked Dominant Gravity. The sudden intense gravitational pull made the light itself bend, pushing it down so it struck nowhere but at her legs. I don't think Kumara planned that defense. It was just a bit of good luck for her. But she failed to capitalize with a counterattack, opting instead to prioritize her healing. Couldn't her tail beast's legs propel her instead? She could resurrect those anytime if she had the magicules for it, which would make it hard for an evenly matched foe to knock her out entirely. So Carillon's first strike didn't work, and soon after he reverted back to his usual form. There must be a time limit to that particle mode after all. But instead of pursuing Kumara, he kept his distance, white tiger blue dragon sword at the ready. Kumara watched him from above and he sneered back, thinking about his next move. Their eyes met, and the next moment there was an intense rumble. Kumara dove down at terminal speed, unleashing a piercing attack with her 9 tails. Carillon, on the other side, focused his magic on his blade and invoked Beast Roar. It was Kumara who won the clash. Carillon's particle beam dissipated, and the white tiger blue dragon sword shattered to pieces. Kumara shouted with joy, "Victory is mine!" She attempted to strike the final blow, but it didn't go as planned.
Not so fast.
Carillon whispered, and only after Kumara's heart was torn apart did that whisper echo against the walls. His weapon was in pieces, but it was not broken. The jagged fragments floated into the air following his will, and they formed particles of light that stabbed Kumara from behind. It was all over. But Carillon, not one to let his guard down, kept going, mercilessly firing another beast roar at the limp Kumara to end it for good.
And that's how Sir Carillon won.
Sounds like it. And, given how much stronger Kumara's gotten, I can't believe she was beaten so easily.
Well, that's how battle works. Good thing this wasn't a real fight, at least.
Right. I think it's great experience for her, too. Seeing Carillon storm down my labyrinth was a humbling experience. I was so sure of myself, too.
I wonder if us volunteering to host Sir Carillon was itself an overly arrogant move to make. We have much to teach him, and much to learn as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Some people say being a teacher is a good opportunity to discover what you're lacking. The idea being, I guess, that if you're asked something you don't know, you can't just talk your way out of it. You need to quickly investigate the answer, then make it your own. In this case, I feel like staging these real fights with Carillon is teaching us to be more careful in battle. Still, the same was true for Carillon. I think he's refining his battle style more and more with each fight. If Kumara had fought him before Adelman, I bet we would have seen the opposite results. That was how wonderful Carillon's growth was. Well, at this rate, I bet Zegion had it rough too, huh? I hated to even imagine Zegion losing, but after all this momentum...
Oh, that wasn't a problem.
Huh?
They faced off, and Sir Carillon was the first to act, but...
The video came back on. A single instant was all it lasted. Before Carillon could even enter particle form, well, that's not the right way to put it. Zegion just smiled, like someone was showing a neat little illusion to him. And then Carillon's whole body was sliced up like confetti. It was that instant? What is Zegion, anyway?
Honestly, I think it was a miracle that I beat him. I don't think I'd stand a chance now.
Benimaru smirked. That might just be modesty, but if a sore loser like him is going that far, Zegion must truly be from another dimension. If he lost as well, we'd have to fully retool our approach to defense from the bottom up.
Zegion never seems to get too conceited, no. This experience reminded us to keep our guards up, but it sure doesn't feel like he needs the lesson. I agree, he's beyond stoic that way. It was a complete, total victory, but he still wasn't satisfied with it. I remain a far cry from Sir Rimuru, he said.
So was Zegion pursuing this Rimuru of his imagination? The thought made my eyes water. That was the end of Carillon's challenge. But what about Frey?
Lady Frey defeated Alaman as well. Rather handily, in fact.
Really? That was unexpected. I thought Adalman's team would win that one. Him alone, maybe Frey would pull it off. But 3-on-1, I really think Adalman's team would have the advantage there. But when I brought up the video, it soon became clear why she won. It's a complete mismatch.
It looks to be that, yes. Lady Frey's magic interference completely shut down Adalman's magic. That threw their attack patterns off, and then Lady Frey dictated the pace of the battle. It cost him dearly.
Benimaru was right. The area in a 50-yard radius around Frey became an anti-magic zone that blocked all magicule movement. It was a more powerful form of interference than anything the Charybdis could manage, strong enough to cancel out Adalman's Necronomicon. Frey achieved divinity too, didn't she? That's a property only attainable by spiritual life forms who shed their natural lifespan, so no wonder Frey could compete against an ultimate gift. In fact, there's a chance she earned an ultimate skill too, isn't there? After this, Adalman switched his main weapon to Holy Cannon, that piece of holy magic, but it wasn't decisive. Frey's flight capabilities made it simple for her to dart around these bolts, and in the meantime she zoomed right up to Venti the tank and grabbed on with her talons.
Those talons of hers are a major threat. They disrupt the magicules within your body, so they're like a natural poison for monsters. Once she latches on, you're all but robbed of your skills and magic.
I had no problem calling those talons as dangerous as a god-class weapon. Wow. If I didn't know, maybe I would have been in trouble too.
Oh, you'd be fine, wouldn't you? You could just use replication to escape. But Sir Carillon said he'd have no way out, and I'm not sure I would either. I'd defeat her before she could latch on, but...
Yes, I'm sure that's what Benimaru would do. But that was asking too much of Adalman's party. Venti, destroyed from the inside, was forced out of battle. Then Frey switched to a long-range approach. With Adalman unable to cast flight magic, all she had to do was fly up and rain down attacks from above. Alberto, irritated, leaped up and tried to swipe at Frey, but that just made him ripe for the picking. They called her the Sky Queen for a reason, and before long Alberto was in pieces and scattered across the air. That just left Adalman, and by this point he had no chance. Faced with Frey's might, defeat was the only option for him.
Then Lady Frey pressed on downward and went into battle with Kumara.
And how'd that go? They were about equal in power, but Kumara didn't have divinity. And looking at the last battle, Frey was clearly battle-seasoned. She called herself among the weakest of the 10 great demon lords, but I think she was being too modest. She was a clever fighter, and Kumara was immature. I thought it turned into a fun fight, and that's exactly what it was.
It was one for the record books. They fought for 3 days straight, both of them bringing out all their strength. I wish I could call it a draw, but Lady Frey was the victor.
Ooh, sounds like a great fight. I'll have to study the video later.
Yes, I learned a lot from it myself. It's important to have the fortitude to never give up on victory, but in the end, a bit of ingenuity really can make the difference. If you're an even match with your opponent in strength, misleading them about your powers becomes so vital. Kumara lost, after all, because she misjudged how much force her opponent had left.
Wow. Now I'm really looking forward to the video. It has 3 days worth of data, so I'll need to use Hasten Thought to speed it up a bit. And did Frey try her hand against Zegion next? If it was that even against Kumara, she was doomed against him. If Frey declined to fight Benimaru, I doubt she'd take on an even bigger menace.
No, she fought Apito instead.
Oh, her.
Yes. I suppose it was a matter of pride, as a fellow winged creature.
Huh. That kind of thing? It seemed logical. Maybe it prodded that competitive streak of hers.
That turned into a pretty impressive fight too, but Lady Frey won thanks to the difference in core strength.
I'm sure she did. If it was that good a battle, Apito deserves the highest of praise. Either way, this made the extent of Frey's powers much clearer to me. That, and I could see what my allies needed to work on. I'm sure it was a shock for Adelman's team, getting a break from work only to have their asses kicked twice in a row. But let's just be glad this wasn't real combat and hope they capitalize on this experience. That, and maybe Carillon and Frey owed me a favor now, huh? I had Ramiris to thank for that too, so I'd need to express my appreciation to all of them later. The latter in particular. I can't thank her enough, so what else did I need to tackle? Okay, I said to Benimaru. I'll leave Sara and Grigori in your hands then.
Roger that. As it stands, they might have a chance against Adalman's trio.
I'm with you there. In fact, maybe Alberto could handle them himself. But don't keep Adelman from his work for too long. I had just sworn to myself to keep my guard up, so I won't be too shocked if my prediction turns out wrong. But Sara couldn't even beat Old Man Ghidorah, and that told me Adalman's party would be a major challenge for him. In fact, my prediction wound up becoming 100% true a few days later. And with that proven, Sar and Grigori were assigned to train their hardest with Apito, as Adalman's crew had other work to do.
Route confirmed. The next episode and full playlist are ready.
Then don't stop here. Keep watching in story order and subscribe before the next part drops.